It's the appointed time. We have a quorum. Let's resume the meeting. We now come to part 3 and part 4 together. The lead member, Mr. Vincent Chang, will ask questions and then other members will get to speak. Members who wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. Over to you, Mr. Chang. Thank you, Chairman. For these two parts, I want to split my questions into two parts. First, on licensed ferry services, and second, for the Kaito services. Let's start with the licensed ferry services. I'm looking at paragraphs 3.4, 3.5, and 3.8 in 2020. In March 2020, the tenders were assessed and then licenses were granted for the Central to Hongham route. The successful contractor proposed the improvements to the pier. Let's start with the pier. It starts with the Hongham South Concourse Cafe and Central Pier number 8 and also a cafe on the second floor, but the discussion is still going on power supply for Hongham South and attracting tenants, and then for Central Ferry Pier number 8, the application is still going on for the restaurant license. I visited the two piers. The operation leaves much to be desired. It's even worse than the licensed or the franchise operator. So why does it take 6 years and we still haven't sorted out the power supply for Hongham South? What's the technical challenge? Over the past 6 years, how many license applications have been received for pier number 8? If we're still dealing with the first batch of applications, why haven't we received applications? In our waterfront areas, many signature cafes have been set up. Have we approached those familiar with how things go to get the cafes going? So let's start with the two cafes. Commissioner for Transport. In 2020, the Central to Hongham route was started, and then in 2022, the water taxi service started. There was a commitment for Hongham South and also Central Ferry Pier number 8. There were proposals to revitalize these two piers. But that was in the middle of the COVID outbreak. So the investment and business environment suffered. Investors were struggling, so they cancelled their investment plans. On the technical side of things, for Hongham South, running a small restaurant requires the installation of power cables, and that means the operator will have to apply to CLP. For light refreshments, the relevant license will be needed. The TD is working with the operator on the revitalization proposals. Maybe I can continue to discuss the latest progress of the plans of the operators. So, cafes. For the Hongham South Ferry Pier, the operator looks for interested parties, so they don't submit an application to the government. The ferry operator has applied to CLP for power supply facilities to support a cafeteria. CLP is now applying for the excavation permit to lay the power cables for Central Pier number 8. So the permit involved is the confectionery and frozen food permit. They're now selling ice cream. And that's just right, as the weather is getting hotter. Now, this operator selling frozen confectionery is also applying for light refreshments permit so that they can sell coffee and snacks. Also, in the Hongham South Ferry Pier, there's another revitalization proposal, and that is installing an LED lighting system powered by solar power. The operator will submit a fresh application to the Government Property Agency. We will keep track of the progress to make sure they submit this application to the GPA. For the operator at Central Ferry Pier number 8, they also have plans to install an LED light, but their progress hinges on the progress in the Hongham Pier. They want to see where they can improve, and then they will proceed with the LED lighting for Central Pier number 8. Finally, for the rooftop or the upper floor of Central Pier number 8, there was a plan to build a time tunnel. An investor was willing to put in the money, but then the overall business environment got in the way, so that investor shelved the plan. The ferry operator has found another investor. This new investor is drafting their plan. An assistant commissioner for transport will keep track of the progress and review the situation from time to time to see if the operator delivers on the performance indicators. I support the follow-up actions. We have to hurry up. I'm looking at the audit report for the Hongham South Ferry Pier and Central Pier number 8. The situation is less than ideal. People use the space for storage. And even when there is a business, few visitors come to the facilities. A few years ago, there was COVID, so there were challenges. But the situation as a whole has improved now. Much has changed in Hongham. Now the new waterfront is open. We now also have the Kai Tak Sports Park. There are now parks. There's also a large hotel. Given the business environment now, we should be able to do better. So can we get the department to talk to the operator to do better? The situation now falls short of expectations. Now I turn to water taxis. Paragraph 3.4. In August and September 2018, the TD invited interested parties to submit EOIs for water taxis central to Hongham, and also first recommissioning central to Hongham service and then piloting the water taxi, and then the tender was granted. I understand there are challenges with the Hongham route. I was from the Kowloon West constituency. Around the same time the Wangpo MTR station opened, many people opted for the railway, so there were challenges for the Hongham ferry service. But what about the water taxi? What's the government's position? The water taxi has been in operation for a while. I visited the area. The operation leaves much to be desired. I have also looked at overseas examples. Overseas, they have different kinds of sightseeing trips delivered through water transport. We are a long way off from the options available overseas. The license will go on for a while. Maybe can we invite overseas operators in tendering exercises? Secretary. Water taxi is personal to me. The first water taxi service started during the COVID years. We had our masks on when we got on board the water taxi. The hotel nearby opened. And then the enhancements to the harborfront kicked in. The water taxi service started in 2021. Water taxis were meant to serve the needs of commuters and also sightseers. We have a spectacular water body. Our public transport is highly efficient, a system that is mainly relying on our railroads. We also have buses and minibuses. There is a certain level of demand for water taxis, but that demand is not going to balloon over time. That's why water taxis are meant for both commuting and sightseeing. The water taxis started during the COVID years, so the service started at a bad time. It had a rough start. It had struggled to attract visitors. The water taxi operator is committed to the operation. They have held out. They stepped up services in recent years. In the fourth quarter last year, they launched 2 more luxurious vessels to replace the smaller vessels that serving Tsim Sha Tsui East and Central. They also go via West Kowloon. The government also secured funding from LegCo to build a beautiful quay at West Kowloon. The water taxis also draw visitors and tourists with pets. We have to be pragmatic. If we look for water taxis, the kind you see overseas involving vast resources, we have to assess how many locals and tourists will need the service first. That is not to say there is no room for development. The operator is considering electric vessels. They are also looking to offer more sightseeing services. At dusk, they have sightseeing services. There are also value-added services for tourists so that they can sell the tickets at a higher fare. So this is where we give assistance. They are now running 3 routes: Tsim Sha Tsui East, Central via West Kowloon and Wan Chai. In October and November 2025, they also started a route from Tsim Sha Tsui to Lei Yue Mun via Tsim Sha Tsui via West Kowloon. For myself, I also visited the area. There were queues involving tourists. Many were bringing along their pets. We want the water taxis to attract more sightseers, particularly tourists. We're getting more visitor arrivals from the mainland. We want the water taxis to do better and better.
Understood. I hope that the Secretary will look further into improving water taxi service. I understand that things were difficult during COVID, but as the economy rebounded, people now care more about the harbor front. I know that there is an operator operating water taxis from West Kowloon to Central. They also generate revenue for advertisement. I do think that there is room for further development with water taxi. Now, some other questions on Kaito ferry service. 4.16 says that the Transport Department conduct regular checks at hotspots of suspected illegal ferry service to monitor the situation and refers suspected illegal cases to the Marine Department for further action. However, from 2024 to 2026, they only conducted site observations at Saikong, but not Wonshek and Cheking Pier. It is said in paragraph 4.17 that the TD will continue to conduct spot check and initiate enforcement action. So, what is the situation with the spot check now? Last week, the LegCo established a ecotourism task force. We went from Saikong to Wonshek Pier. We want to promote and enhance the experience of tourists at Saikong. We are all concerned about the water safety and illegal Kaito ferry service at Saikong. On the internet, I see that some of these illegal Kaito ferry service operators obtain or have a travel agency license. Secretary, on illegal Kaito ferry service, I think that we are all concerned about water safety and the safety of passengers and tourists. The Marine Department conduct enforcement action and patrol at different areas. And together with the police force, they have joint operation to combat illegal activities and illegal carriage of passengers for reward and any contraventions of marine ordinance. If we're talking about waters within the Victoria Harbour, we do have covert operation for collection of intelligence and evidence. The Marine Department and the police force did launch joint enforcement action or operation. The Transport Department tried to educate the public and tourists so that they can differentiate between legal and illegal Kaito ferry service. The TD and the Marine Department have formulated promotional pamphlets together so that members of the public and tourists can identify legal Kaito ferry services approved by the Transport Department. So how can we make sure that tourists and members of the public know which vessel is approved? You may notice that at piers, at the landing steps and ferries, there are signage boards and identification plates. We put up our promotional materials at these plates. In the past, the plates sets out what kind of ferry service is legal. Very recently, we just put up a QR code at the identification plate. After scanning the QR code, you will be brought to the webpage of the Transport Department so that they can obtain the most updated information on what Kaito service is approved by the TD. Before July, we will complete our operation in putting up QR codes at 100 odd identification plates at landing steps and piers. Some of the landing steps and piers may not be managed by the TD, but we are going to take a step further. Some of these piers and landing steps may be managed by the Home Affairs Department or private companies. We are going to reach out to them so that we can display QR codes leading people to a list of approved and legal Kaito ferry operators. Before coming to Hong Kong, if tourists want to know what Kaito ferry routes are legal and safe, they in the future may be able to identify the list of legal Kaito ferry routes on the website of the Tourism Board. Thank you, Chairman. Kaito ferry service mainly serve people living in remote islands and outlying islands, but as more tourists are making use of the service, we need to educate them to protect them. Now, I have another question on paragraph 4.27. It is said that among the 55 routes, the Kaito ferry service between Sai Kung and other places are covered by 49, 47, and 46 routes respectively. They're highly repetitive. For example, the ones between Sai Kung and Hat Mun Bay, Kiu Chui, and Yim Tin Tai, there are more than some 40 routes. I know that there are still people living in those outlying islands, but some of the calling points were highly repetitive. Are we going to rationalize the ferry routes to cancel repetitive calling points? If there are routes that are more patronized, maybe we should increase the frequency when we rationalize the routes. For Pak Tam, Sai Kung, Meko Ho's route, there are many people. Should we also offer ferry service leading tourists to those places with a fee? This is how we can further boost tourism and economy in Sai Kung. So on new demand and repetitive calling points, how is the administration going to deal with them? The Commissioner will take the question. Thank you. For Kaito, every half year we conduct a tender exercise inviting interested Kaito operators to submit a tender. In the tender, they let us know which routes they are interested in operating. Sometimes district councillors, members of the community, update us on the latest trends and tourism hotspots. Sometimes we reach out to existing Kaito operators to see if they are interested in operating new routes. The scale of Kaito operators is rather small. Say, for example, there are now 50-odd Kaito ferry operators. Most of them were proprietor or individuals rather than company. In the past, as many of the Kaito operators are individuals, we did not ask them to update us on whether there is repetitive calling points because we believe in market forces. As I said, most Kaito ferry operators are individuals. If they cannot break even, then naturally they would have given up on some of their calling points. The reason why some of the calling points were highly competitive could be that during public holidays or long weekends, there is great demand for those routes or points. On certain days, these highly repetitive calling points may not be in service. So we should not treat this the same way as we do with the franchised bus. Franchised bus companies operate their routes on a daily basis, and road space is very much limited, so we need to maximize our efficiency. But for Kaito, I think that we can be more relaxed in our management and supervision. That's the end for my questions. Mr. Jonathan Lang, thank you. I have questions regarding licensed and Kaito ferry services. According to paragraph 3.13, the operator need to report on irregularities such as numbers and details of accidents, vessel breakdown, lost sailing delays of over 10 minutes against the sailing time on timetables, the cost for delay, etc. Audit sample check of monthly operating returns submitted by the operator for 2024-25 for 5 routes revealed that irregularities have been reported in 4 routes. For instance, in one route, there were 36 incidents of vessel breakdown. In another route, there were 16 incidents of lost sailings during the period. Has the TD looked into the reason why the operator did not report such irregularities in their monthly report? And how will the administration follow up on it if there were such irregularities? Thank you. We are aware of the fact that sometimes ferry service operators submit their return late. We granted them with a license. They have the responsibility to offer us with information and updates. For franchised and licensed ferry service operators, they are required to submit returns. In the future, we're going to also ask Kaito ferry operators to submit a return. Let me repeat a few points that I made earlier. We are going to issue reminders with a deadline such that our staff will actually remind the relevant operators to submit a return. As I said, many Kaito ferry operators are individuals. After receiving the written notifications, understanding it, and submitting a return, it takes time, and they may face difficulties. We're of the view that they need to offer us information on the frequency of their trips, number of passengers, occupation rate, so on and so forth. We're going to improve our internal administrative guidelines. We're going to meet with the service operators. Apart from that, we are also going to conduct on-site observations so that we can talk to Kaito operators face to face. Now, on licensed ferry service, we are going to manage the operators the same manner as we do with the franchised operators. if they submit report late or miss out on any details, then they would be held liable. There should not be any excuse for that because they are mostly companies. Thank you. Of course, we need to be tight with our monitoring of licensed ferry service operators. But for Kaito service, and I think that we need to get the market used to submitting returns. According to paragraph 3.16, the audit analysis of the complaint statistics from 2025 to 2025 revealed that 31% of the complaints were related to frequency and regularity of service. And of the 262 departures with delay of over 5 minutes revealed in the surveys for all routes during the period, 88 were related to the route of Tumun Tongchong Salowan Tai O route. Why was there so many delays? The TD allowed the operators to adjust the regularity of their service, and it is said that the improvement have been made. What was the cause of the delays? Commissioner, please. We have looked into the matter after reading the report. The delays happen mostly during weekends and public holidays. Most passengers take their trips during the morning hours to Tai O and in the afternoon going back to Tu Mun. The delays is especially severe during this period of time for these routes. We have analyzed the reason behind the delays. According to our analysis, the route Tumun Tongchong Salowan Tai O is rather long, and there are many stops along the way. When there are more passengers on board, for the sake of safety, the operators may allow more time for the passengers to get on board safely. So cumulatively, the vessel may be at berth for a longer period of time, and that resulted in the delay. So, objectively, maybe we should reserve for more buffer time for people to disembark and board the vessel, so that there will not be so many delays. There is another objective factor leading to the delay. That is, along the route starting from 2024, there was a North Lantau Marine Park commissioned. And during that period of time, there was a there started to be a speed restrictions and speed limit, and that lengthened the journey time. At the end of last year, the administration worked with the operator to adjust the service time. In April, we went to the piers for observation. The journey time is basically in compliance with the regulations.
Thank you, Chair. I think with this coordination, we have better reliability. It really shows the strength of Hong Kong. I hope in future, should there be incidents with other routes, we can expedite the handling of issues. Now, I have some other questions. About paragraph 4.10, we have approximately 70 licenses reaching expiry from 2021 to 2025. 62 of the licenses, the operators submitted the extension applications less than 6 months before license expiry, and 16 licenses, the extension applications were submitted less than a month before license expiry. There's even one that is submitted after license expiry. Has the administration followed up on why the extension applications were submitted late? Commissioner, thank you. We have approximately 50 Kaito operators, 8 are party corporates. 40 odd of them operate as the relevant services as individuals. And some of them are of relatively old age. We do agree there is a need to enhance awareness on the renewal mechanism and the timeline, because after all, they have this responsibility. But we also need to think about how we want to provide support to make sure they remember to provide or make extension applications in time. Or for personal reasons, they decide not to renew the licenses. They should follow a certain timeline for us to see if there are other operators who are interested in operating relevant services, which is why we have enhanced the mechanism. Starting from this month, our officers will make use of the computer system to issue reminders to operators 7 months before the deadline for license extension. We have to be mindful that many of the operators are operating such services on an individual basis. We can't really rely on written communication, be it physical or electronic form. We need to deploy officers to actually get in touch in person with the operators to see if they are interested in extending license. Chair, I think even with the new mechanism in place, officers going the extra mile to find out about their situation. I think it's good because these are not large companies. We're talking about individuals. And after all, they have the freedom to make a choice. I also want to ask about paragraph 4.16 on the illegal Kaito services. As another member asked, we have already some pamphlets published according to the Secretary. We also have QR code for citizens and visitors to scan. But from what I can see, the design of the posters are quite detailed in content. There's a QR code, there is Chinese, there's English content. The design is quite complex. I think after all, we're trying to offer better protection to citizens so that they know which Kaito services are legal. Have you reviewed your publicity materials? I think for posters and banners, I think you can make it simple. As long as there is the appropriate flag or a license, people should know the relevant Kaito service is legal. I think it should be very easy to understand in terms of content. Can you do better in this regard? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you. As the member said, I already talked about this. I do want to provide some supplementary information. As the Commissioner for Transport said, there are some QR codes, and we have at piers as well as lending facilities, both public and private lending facilities. We have some publicity materials. On top of the QR codes, we also have some publicity materials for citizens and visitors to easily understand whether a service is legal. For example, what kind of things they have to display to be a legal Kaito service. We also want to provide details such as the trips and the timetable, which is why we provide QR codes for people to scan for more information. This is why it gets a bit complicated. We, of course, don't want to confuse people. Often visitors, when they get there, immediately they have to get on vessels. We want to make it quick to read. We will therefore continue our work with education and publicity for passengers to protect them. We will continue to formulate media and PR strategies. Some publicity relating to Kaito ferry services to enhance awareness of the public on this. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I hope that in future the Bureau can enhance their publicity strategy so we do have a number of visitors making use of services. We not only want to protect citizens, we also want to make sure visitors can enjoy the relevant services safely. Thank you. Mr. Robert Lee, thank you, Chair. I have similar concerns as other members relating to license and Kaito ferry services. I have some follow-up questions about paragraph 3.17. About the Tumun Tongchong Shaluan Tai O route. We have quite poor performance. We have 40 of the 43 surveys, that is 93% of surveys, found that there were delays of over 5 minutes. The Commissioner already provided an explanation, but there should be consequences. The operators should be penalized. For the more serious cases, I think you need to escalate the relevant cases to management for follow-up. Is there some sort of mechanism to ensure service reliability, especially for the more serious cases of delays? What's ideal is you can be more proactive before there are serious cases. When you see a trend, a problem that persists over a few months or even 6 months, that the case should be escalated. If it is a one-off incident, I guess we don't have to do too much, but I think we should do something. That's my first question. Perhaps I'll pause here. Thank you. Right, Commissioner. Thank you, Chair. We do pay close attention to missed trips or where they are not providing up to par service performance. We do know the situation. We continuously monitor licensed ferry services. For the Transport Department, there are work guidelines to have surveys from time to time on the operations of relevant services. We reviewed the wording. We believe the wording is unclear, which is why we say now there should be regular surveys, and we also are exploring whether we should stipulate the frequency and when the surveys are to be undertaken. For example, during weekdays and during weekends. Should there be a complaint in relation to service quality or trip reliability? If the case is especially serious, we will have more frequent surveys and inspections. Through our inspections, we should be able to identify which service providers have more serious delays, and we want to proactively resolve the issue. We don't want to wait until the situation gets too bad. If a particular service provider performs very poorly, we will consider this when we consider whether to extend their licenses. For new operators, we will just grant a 2-year license in the beginning. For renewal applications, we will review whether for the past 2 years they have good performance or whether they have improved on certain non-compliance, or non-stable performance. If we think it's okay, we will grant a 5-year license. But if we have reservations, we'll just grant a 2-year license. This is how we can practice distinction. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I have some follow-up questions on Kaito Ferry services. About paragraph 4.16c. Sai Kung Pier, Wangshek Pier, and Checking Pier. There are some hotspots for illegal Kaito Ferry services there, and only surveys were only done at Sai Kung Public Pier. I have some concerns that are different from those of other members. The illegal Kaito ferry services will affect the business of existing licensees. I think you need to provide value with licenses. If there are no consequences for illegal Kaito ferry services, why would people want to get a license? As they have to comply with additional rules. If you have harsher penalties for illegal Kaito ferry service operators, there will be greater deterrence. You may have some QR codes for visitors to see whether a particular service is legal. I think this is good, but then many things can be forged. So we have really elaborate scams these days. Materials that look quite authentic. So I think we need to have harsher penalties to make your actions more effective. We have some QR codes forged for, say, bank accounts. It may look authentic, but it's all fake. We have to understand this is the case. So will you have harsher penalties or measures to combat illegal Kaito services? Secretary, thank you, Mr. Lee, for your questions. This involves multiple departments. We also have the police and marine department involved. We did do some inspections before, that should be seen in some media reports, to combat illegal services. We have some cross-departmental inspections, and should there be suspected cases of illegal acts, they will be referred to the relevant departments. In terms of penalties, in the laws of Hong Kong for commercial local vessel registration and license related matters, in specifically Chapter 548, owners of pleasure vessels have to receive the approval of the Marine Department to carry passengers for reward. The maximum penalty for breach is a level 3 fine of $10,000. And we have in recent years the Marine Department stepping up inspections and holding joint operations with the police to take enforcement action at some hotspots. The Marine Department is also combating illegal acts continuously, including illegal carriage of passengers or breach of license conditions or other relevant marine legislation. The Marine Department will continue to make APIs announcements in the public interest. As I provided a reply to Mr. Jonathan Leung, we urge the public and visitors to make sure the service is legal before they make use of relevant service for their safety. We will continue to work on this. Thank you. I have one last question if the chairman will allow it. I have some questions about paragraphs 4.23 and 4.24. The Transport Department engages different consultants, and in the two paragraphs, it mentioned of the 63 spot checks with irregularities identified by the Audit Commission, only 29, that is 46% of spot checks, have been reported by the consultants as with irregularities. And there's also serious late submission of reports submitted by consultants. So we have 18 reports submitted late, and the delay ranges from 1 day to 97 days. The average is 24 days. For consultants that perform poorly, how can you make sure they can do their work and they need to do quality work? Thank you. Commissioner. Thank you. With our regulation of Kaito ferry services, we do make use of consultants that we engage via tendering to conduct on-site surveys for information. The consultants not only do work related to ferry services or specifically Kaito ferry services, we also engage them for the monitoring of other public transport services. We review the performance of the relevant consultant for different areas. The consultant was late in submitting certain information as required. This is not ideal for our monitoring of public transport services, including Kaito ferry services. But we also want to make sure we can identify some special cases with public transportation. So we do engage the consultant for other public transport surveys. If we want to have good monitoring of Kaito ferry services, we think we can do better in several areas. One, we would ask the consultant to honor the contract. If they cannot meet our service performance requirement, we will not renew the contract with them. We will engage another consultant. In addition, for other public transport services, if the consultant has to deploy resources to do work for other public transport services, we will make sure to record this internally to see the manpower deployment situation for us internally and for the consultant to make sure the surveillance level is still up to par. And we know there is potential for lesser surveillance should it be the case. We also ask the consultant to provide information to us punctually for our monitoring.
跟住就啱啱
A simple follow-up question. There were 63 irregularities, but only 29 such instances were flagged. The deviation shouldn't be so huge. If there's an issue, and then you see a discrepancy between the number of instances flagged, that's not ideal. It should be an objective figure. There shouldn't be such a gap. Commissioner, any response? We also have a role to play in monitoring the work of the consultant. We will step up the work, we will step up our communication. First, we will ensure the accuracy, and second, the timeliness of the submission. No follow-up questions from me. Dr. Webster. Thank you. Paragraph 3.24 and 3.25. These are about the special helping measures. Now for the vessel maintenance expenditure. Paragraph 3.24. When maintenance expenses arise, different kinds of documents will be required, justifications, audited accounts, etc. And then paragraph 3.25 also says that some documents were missing. No information on the day-to-day maintenance, no justifications for the procurement. Under B1, the audit report highlights the absence of declarations of interest. I'm surprised. Of course, it's not good to see other documents missing, but when the declarations of interest were missing, I find that mind-boggling. I want to find out more about this. Commissioner. In 2011, the special helping measures were launched. The measures work on a reimbursement basis. The scheme covers pier maintenance and vessel maintenance expenses, and that covers the maintenance and repairs for vessels, and also covers expenditure related to fare concessions. The expenses are reimbursed. For vessel maintenance and repairs, it depends on the sum. There may be a quotation exercise, or there may be a public tendering exercise before the operator select an agent or a contractor. Based on audit findings, the Transport Department has referred to the government's internal guidelines, and that is the stores and procurement regulations. On that basis, we have prepared a more detailed guideline for the ferry operator to get the work right. For pier cleansing, pier insurance, maintenance of piers and mooring facilities, vessel insurance and vessel cleansing for these items. If the sum exceeds $1.35 million, a public tendering exercise will be needed. Now, for anything more than $5,000, quotations will be needed from different potential contractors. This is to ensure fairness in the tendering process. On conflict of interests, the amended guidelines also make it clear that in a procurement procedure and in the vetting of tenders, declarations of interest are needed. After such declarations, an officer at a certain grade will have to invite the quotations. You need officers at different levels to invite and vet the quotations. This is to ensure transparency. The tendering exercise will also have to be communicated not just through local newspapers but also online. These new measures, new guidelines, will help the licensed operators to get the work right with the reimbursement. That's to ensure fairness, impartiality. That's also to ensure the proper use of public funds. Thank you. My next question has to do with paragraph 3.23. Paragraph 3.23. Now it's about updating the panel on transport on the special helping measures. Paragraph 3.22. I'm looking at table 10. The panel on transport should be updated on certain things, and item 2, 6, and 10 all together $26 million. But the information was not given to the panel. Were these special helping measures one-off in nature? Is there a guideline on doing better, or will a make-up report be submitted? Commissioner. The 2019 policy address proposed sustained support for vessels. In 2024, we updated the panel on the latest situation of the vessel subsidy scheme and also the overall support measures from the government for the outlying island ferry service providers. In 2019, we were reviewing the special helping measures. The measures were expanded to cover all ferry routes. We looked at the success in the first 5 years. We're now going through the trial scheme for hybrid vessels. Once we get the results of the trial, we will brief the panel on transport about the implementation, the findings, and the way forward. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. My next question is about paragraph 3.28 and 3.29, the vessel subsidy scheme. In the first phase, 22 vessels were supposed to be delivered in the fourth quarter of 2025. At the end of last year, one diesel-electric vessel was postponed to the second quarter this year for delivery. The delivery is way behind schedule for the diesel and the hybrid vessels, so what follow-up actions are taken? Can the government tell us it's serious delay? Commissioner. The vessel subsidy scheme was launched by the Transport Department in 2021. Altogether, the operators will buy 44 new vessels. Under Phase 1 of that scheme, 22 new vessels are covered. Among these 22 ships, 2 of them have seen delayed delivery. They include one diesel-electric vessel. The other vessel is a hybrid vessel. The reason for the delay in delivery has been reviewed. The vessel manufacturer needs more time to calibrate the systems and run safety tests. They also have to sort out the navigation system for the vessel. Another key reason is that the shipyard saw a flooding due to a typhoon last year. And that caused a delay in the supply of components. That explains the delay in the ship making. The TD takes the delay in delivery seriously. The TD along with the management of the ferry operator visited the dockyard. We hold regular meetings with the management of the shipbuilder. We continuously monitor the progress. Every 2 weeks, the shipbuilder will have to submit a progress update to us. The shipbuilder will have to give us a specific timetable on when the 2 vessels will be delivered. For one such vessel, we're in June now. At the end of last month, one vessel was already in trial. The other vessel will be towed to Hong Kong for delivery. We will keep an eye on the ship to see if it is delivered this month. Thank you. My next question is in Chapter 4, Paragraph 4.2324 and 25. It's about the consultant. I'm reading the 3 paragraphs as a whole. Every 6 months there's a spot check. The consultant does the work. The audit report says there were 63 spot checks. 29 irregularities were flagged in 29 instances. The report was submitted late. I'm looking at paragraph 4.25. And out of the 29 spot checks, in 19 instances, there were no file records. The TD hired a consultant to do the work, and then there was late submission of reports. After the report, there was no follow-up action. Inspection without follow-up actions. So 29 instances. So in only 30% of the cases, action was taken. So the results leave much to be desired. I need an explanation, Commissioner. The member brought up efficiency and the results. Indeed, there is room for improvement. we hire a contractor to do the site surveys. We will maintain this approach. We will also enable the TD to get information directly from the operators that can help us cross-check the information we get from the consultant versus what we get from the TD, and we can check for accuracy. We wrote to the dozens of Kaito operators to request their operational data. Our plan is that every year the TD will approach the operators directly for the operational data, and then we can cross-check the information from the TD and that from the consultant on the follow-up actions after getting the data. Our colleagues will have to maintain proper records. Last month, we held an internal briefing session. That session covered the supervision of the consultant. We also have a new arrangement for the TD to get data directly from the operators. We have also instructed the relevant unit to do the site surveys themselves and maintain such records. There may be minor or serious irregularities. Even if they see no issue, they should make a record for subsequent follow-up actions. Another example I can give you is more proactive actions. The Secretary brought up the issue of banners. The consultant will have to be able to see whether the Kaito service displays the flag. They have to look for the flag. In the past, those operators came to the TD when they wanted the flag, but the new arrangement will be different. When they see the banner in poor condition, our officers will make a record and send the operator a new banner. Every year we will send the flags or the banners to the operators. So these are some examples of what we will do. We want everything to be documented. It will also be a disciplined approach, a systematic approach involving proactive actions, involving dialogue, and also site surveys. So these are the improvement measures in our follow-up action. Thank you.
好，冇啦。
Now it's my turn. I have a few questions. Sorry, Mr. Ken Lee, please. Thank you, Chairman. I have a rather simple question. The service reliability of licensed service is high. It's at some 98% over the years. So I don't have questions about the licensed ferry service. They have the highest patronage at about 2.3 million per year. I have questions regarding Kaito ferry service. The patronage of it is 1/10 of that of licensed service. I like to ask about paragraph 4.20. In the note, it is said that from 2023-25, we have engaged 3 consultants at a total cost of $15 million to carry out surveys. What is the methodology of the surveys? Did the consultant conduct spot check? So I wonder, over the years, how many spot checks have been conducted by the 3 consultants over the years? Commissioner, thank you. I will ask the Assistant Commissioner to give you the numbers on the contract cost of $15 million. We engaged the consultants to help us conduct on-site investigations and collect operational data. That does not only cover Kaito ferry service, but also other mode of public transports that cover their trip frequency, if there's any lost trips, etc. So the $15 million contract fee cover all sorts of public transport modes. Their service on Kaito account for only 2% of their duties. As for the mode of inspection or spot check and the frequency, I will ask the Assistant Commissioner to supplement. Please. Basically, every year we conduct 2 large-scale investigations. As the Commissioner said, we collect data on the number of passengers, if there's any irregularities, if the Kaito display their flags or plates, how many vessels have they deployed, and along with other operational details or data. We also look at the routes. My second question, on paragraph 4.19, the TD said, in general, Kaito ferry operators may adjust their service level according to passenger demand and operational considerations. The audit asked the TD to collect operational data regularly. As the administration said, Kaito operators are often individuals. How do you collect operational data if that's the case? Are you going to learn from Singapore? Singapore locate all the vessels via GPS. This will save us cost with consultants and allow us to collect real-time data. We can use unmanned drones to see if Kaito is putting up their flags. I think that all these can be automated. I wonder if the administration will consider it. Thank you. Commissioner, please. That's a great suggestion. We cannot rely on manpower to monitor public transport. Relying on manpower is not a sustainable way for us to do it. We need to make use of information technology. GPS is one of the way for us to make our work more efficient, but we need to strike a balance. Kaito vessels sometimes are aged and small in scale. It's hard for us to ask the operator to install cameras. But if the administration is to bear the cost, we need to look at our resources. I know that GPS is one of the suggestions. There are other ways for us to make our monitoring more efficient that is more convenient for individual operators. Last month, we wrote to all Kaito operators asking them to submit to us their operational data once every year. Will operators find it difficult to file all the returns, giving us their records? Will they not be willing to do it? All these are the things that we have to consider. Now, almost everyone has telecommunication applications and mobile phones. Maybe we can make use of these telecommunication applications to ask them for the data so that they don't have to write to us by letters or email us. Because after all, we're not asking them to file statutory applications. We just want to know more about their operations so that we can monitor them more efficiently and make plans. If we receive complaints and if there is any inaccuracies, we may tighten up our data collection methods. I think that's a more efficient way to do it. Thank you. It's difficult for the Kaito operators to fill out all the forms. A GPS may be expensive. Maybe we can ask the Kaito operators to connect their GPS on their mobile phone with the government system. On paragraph 4.29b, it is said that audit recommended that the Commissioner for Transport should include the checking of the exhibition of fare table and service chart in a conspicuous location for conducting biannual spot checks in the future. Is there any ways for passengers to electronically gather information about the fare table and service chart? Commissioner, can the Assistant Commissioner answer this question? After receiving the recommendations from the audit, we have taken action. For subject to demand routes and charges, we have uploaded them onto our website. As I said, through QR code, passengers will be able to get hold of the information, apart from looking them up at the piers. I'm not asking about QR code. Maybe we should let passengers pay with QR codes or octopus cards. Nothing further. Assistant Commissioner, anything to add? We'll look into it with the operators. We encourage them to offer more payment methods. Mr. Lee, any further questions? None. Mr. Lee have put my questions. Perhaps I will follow up on it. When it comes to Kaito ferry service, they are like SMEs or proprietors doing business. From the business perspective, we need to develop a system for them to file their returns more easily, for the government to locate their vessels with GPS more conveniently. So I think that there are many different technologies that we can deploy to enhance our monitoring of the Kaito ferry service. Because according to the report of the audit, ferry service operators seem to find it difficult to submit returns on time. Well, in paragraph 4.6 and 4.7 of the report, it is said that some routes have ceased to operate due to low passenger demand. Some people told me that these routes continue to operate actually illegally, with fare increased from sometimes $3 to $10. Also, is our regulations too restrictive and complicated, such that these operators would rather operate these routes illegally? Because there are sometimes, for some routes, there are no other modes of transport. So, are we allowing illegal vessels to carry passengers? Secretary, thank you. For illegal carriage of passengers for reward, the government does not allow it. As I said earlier, through interdepartmental joint operation and enforcement action, we're going to follow up on it. And we also need to focus on passenger education and promotion. Regarding Kaito ferry service, we have gained some inspirations from the report. All along, individual Kaito operators have been contributing to our city. They have been serving residents living in remote islands, and they have been meeting demand of our tourists. Demand of passengers and tourists may fluctuate over the years. I agree with what the commissioner said. They've been trying to step up monitoring. But I think that more importantly, we need to support the development of Kaito ferry service. If there is demand for certain routes, we hope that operators will run those routes legally. We may consider developing a software so that Kaito operators can communicate more closely with the government. I'm sure that will be of great help to the trade. Is there any factors hindering operators from obtaining a license for operating certain routes? We have to look into it, and the administration also need to step up enforcement action. And during our biannual spot checks, we need to look into the business of individual operators. I hope that in the future, the TD will make good use of the biannual spot checks to understand more about the operation of operators and also keep in close communication with them so that we can unleash a business potential and so that we can develop more routes that meets the needs of tourists and residents of outlying islands. Kaito does not only offer regular service, but also subject to demand routes. As Mr. Chang said, in Sai-Kong, the regular routes are on the minority. For repetitive calling points, they are irregular routes. At certain days, demand for certain routes may rise substantially, so legal Kaito service operators will take opportunity of that and offer more frequent service. During low season, when there is lower demand for certain routes, sometimes only a few operators run those routes. This is the feature and characteristics of Kaito ferry service. So I think that more importantly, we need to grasp the market situation so that we can vitalize the service better. That's the end of my round. Mr. Chang, any other questions? No further questions. If not, that's the end of our open hearing. I hope that the administration will submit the written reply as necessary, and we're going to submit a report to the LegCo in due course. Thank you.
Thank you.